My name is Melody P. Horn, and I am 30 years old. I showed up for Christmas dinner, even though a part of me already knew I shouldn't. I'd been going back and forth about it all week, hovering over the group chat like maybe if I waited long enough, someone would say, "Are you really coming?" or "We're glad you'll be here." But I'd RSVP'd like they asked. I said I'd be there. No one objected. No one acknowledged it either, except my older sister Brittany, who sent a thumbs up emoji, which is basically her entire personality now. Emojis and links to whatever sponsored post she was pushing that week. I didn't dress up, just a sweater and jeans. I even stopped by that wine shop my dad likes and bought a bottle of red I knew he preferred, plus a box of sea salt truffles my mom used to splurge on back when she pretended not to care about brands. I told myself maybe this year would be different. Maybe they'd actually be glad to see me. When I walked into the house, everything looked perfect. Fireplace on, soft jazz playing, food laid out like it belonged in a magazine. People laughing, taking selfies, topping off drinks. Brittany was already positioned at the center of the table, dressed in something beige and silky, her hair curled into those loose, fake effortless waves she probably paid a small fortune for. The table was fully set, 12 seats, metallic gold name cards. I did a slow walk around the table. Brittany, her husband, my parents, Aunt Lisa, Uncle Terry, my cousin Morgan, who I'd been told couldn't make it this year, two of Brittany's friends I barely recognized, and then I saw it. Sir Paws. My sister's dog had a chair, a name card, a tiny ceramic plate placed in front of him like this was the most natural thing in the world. I looked again, convinced I'd missed something. Maybe my card had been moved. Maybe I was supposed to sit somewhere else. I stood there a second too long, long enough for the noise in the room to dip just slightly. My mom finally looked up. "Oh," she said with a half laugh, adjusting the rosemary garnish on the ham. "We just didn't expect you to actually come." That was it. No scramble for another chair. No awkward apology. No one offering to scoot over. My dad didn't even look at me. I nodded once, turned around, and walked out without a word. No one followed me. On the drive home, I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry either. I just felt done, like something had finally clicked into place after years of being slightly off. I'd always been the steady one, the one who stayed local, the one with the boring finance job that paid the bills, the one who helped with taxes, fixed the printer, booked the caterer this year, because apparently no one else could figure out how to use the website. And apparently, I was also the one they never expected to actually show up. I didn't cry when I got home. I didn't slam doors or throw the wine bottle against the wall like some dramatic movie version of heartbreak. I poured a drink, set my keys on the counter, and opened my laptop. The quiet in my apartment felt heavy at first, then strangely calm, like the air after something breaks and finally stops making noise. I'd been the one who set up the shared family card. My parents asked me to years ago, framed it as convenience. "You're good with this stuff," my mom said. "It'll just make everything easier." I used my credit, my name, my account. It started small. Groceries for holidays, a last-minute vet bill for Sir Paws, a caterer booking because no one else wanted to deal with the website. It grew the way these things always do, quietly, until suddenly it's holding everything together and no one remembers who built it. So I canceled the caterer. I didn't even hesitate. I clicked the button, accepted the non-refundable loss, and closed the tab. Deposit gone. Fine. Then I froze the shared card completely. Not paused, not limited, locked. I watched the confirmation screen blink back at me like it was asking if I was sure. I was. All the gifts I'd bought were still in my trunk. I hadn't even unloaded them yet. I closed my laptop, finished my drink, and went to bed. At 10:26 the next morning, my phone lit up like fireworks. The family group chat exploded all at once. Messages stacked on top of each other so fast I couldn't read them in order. Why is nothing paid for? The caterer says it was canceled. Who did this? Melody, what the hell? Mom says you walked out. Are you serious right now? I muted the thread and went for a walk. No one asked why there wasn't a place for me. No one apologized. No one even acknowledged that the dog had a seat and I didn't. For 2 full days after Christmas dinner, I heard nothing. No guilt trip calls from my mom. No sarcastic texts from Brittany. Not even a performative concerned emoji. The silence was eerie and honestly a little beautiful. I went to work. I came home. I made dinner. I lived my life without constantly anticipating what I'd need to fix next. That piece should have been my warning. Tuesday night, around 6:15, I pulled into my apartment complex and saw a silver Subaru parked crooked in the visitor space. My parents' car. I sighed before I even turned off the engine. When I reached the top of the stairs, they were already waiting outside my door. My mom stood stiff, arms crossed, like she'd been holding that pose since they got out of the car. My dad leaned against the railing, trying to look casual and failing. They didn't smile. They didn't say hello. I unlocked my door and stepped inside, letting it swing open behind me. They followed like it was their right. My mom went straight to the couch. My dad hovered near the door. "We need to talk," she said. I didn't answer. I leaned against the kitchen counter and waited. She launched into it like she'd rehearsed in the car and was afraid she'd forget her lines. What I did was cruel. I embarrassed everyone. I humiliated my sister in front of her friends. There was no warning. The caterer panicked. Aunt Lisa had to scramble. Brittany was so upset she didn't even stay the night. Kyle had to take her home early. I heard words, but they didn't land. Overreacted. "We didn't think you were coming. It wasn't that serious." Everyone was stressed. Then she got to the point. "We can't unfreeze the card," she said. "We need it. The property tax payment goes through it, and the dog's vet bill did too. You can't just take something away that affects everyone." I finally spoke. "Why was there a seat for the dog, but not for me?" She blinked like I'd switched languages mid-sentence. "What?" "Oh, come on," she said with a dismissive wave. "That's what this is about. It was symbolic. You know how Brittany is with that dog. She treats him like her baby. It was meant to be cute." "Cute," I said quietly, "but you didn't make a seat for your actual daughter." My dad muttered something about limited seats and the guest list getting longer than expected. I said nothing. I just looked at them. My mom shifted tactics, softening her tone. She said I was being ungrateful. She said we'd all made sacrifices. She said Brittany works hard too, and I always make her feel bad about her success, that she can't help being the one who shines. Then she asked why I always want to separate myself from the family. "This isn't about separation," I said. "It's about respect, and I haven't had any in a long time." I reminded them of the nights I'd fixed their internet, the taxes I filed for them every year, the time I covered Brittany's rent for just 1 month when she was between jobs. No payback, not even a thank you. I reminded them that the only reason the shared card existed was because they asked me to open it to make their lives easier. They got quiet. Then my mom said the thing that finally cracked it. "You're not being very generous, Melody," she said. "You've always been the steady one. Why are you acting like you're some kind of victim?" I stared at her, then shook my head. "I'm not acting," I said. "I'm done. No more card, no more favors, no more last-minute help, no more pretending I don't hear the jokes and the digs and the comments about my job, my clothes, my apartment. You can manage without me." My dad finally spoke, saying I was being harsh. I opened the door and told them they should go. They left without saying goodbye. I didn't feel bad when the door clicked shut. I felt free. They didn't message me for 5 days after that. No calls, no group chat pings, no late-night guilt bombs from my mom wrapped in heart emojis, no dramatic Instagram stories from Brittany about toxic energy or healing journeys, just nothing. I figured maybe they finally got the message. Maybe they were embarrassed enough to retreat and do what they always do when things get uncomfortable, pretend nothing happened and wait for me to smooth it over. I was starting to enjoy the quiet. Then my phone rang. It was my dad. He never calls first. I let it go to voicemail, already bracing myself for whatever was coming, but the notification popped up instantly and something in my chest tightened before I even listened. "Melody, it's Dad," his voice said, strained and unsure. "Your mom's in the hospital. She had something. They think it might have been a stroke. She's not talking much. You should come." For a second, everything froze. The anger evaporated. The resolve wavered. All I could see was my mom lying still, machines beeping softly around her, and every argument we'd ever had shrank into something irrelevant. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to the hospital without thinking. She was already in a room when I got there. The lights were dim. The heart monitor beeped steadily. My dad sat beside the bed with his head in his hands. Brittany stood by the window, arms folded, doing that slow, controlled breathing she uses when she wants to look composed instead of scared. My mom lay there with her eyes half open, face blank, hands limp at her sides. An IV ran into her arm. My stomach dropped. "We don't know how bad it is yet," my dad said quietly. "She hasn't spoken." Brittany didn't say a word. She just looked at me like I'd put my mom in that bed myself. I sat down and stayed. Hours passed in that strange hospital time where everything feels suspended. A nurse came in once and said her vitals were stable, scans were clear, they were just monitoring. Eventually, I told them I'd come back in the morning and drove home feeling hollow and exhausted. I barely slept. When I came back the next day, the scene was completely different. My mom was sitting up in bed laughing. Brittany was showing her something on her phone. My dad was eating chips like it was a road trip. My mom's color was back. She had lipstick on. Her nails were freshly painted. She looked fine. "Oh, Melody," she said when she saw me, smiling softly. "Good morning, sweetheart." I stood there, frozen, waiting for someone to explain. My dad finally did, shrugging. "The doctors think they overreacted. It wasn't really a stroke, more like a stress episode." Brittany nodded seriously. "A neurological blip," she said, "probably caused by emotional trauma." My mom looked right at me. "Honestly, with all the tension lately, I'm not surprised my body reacted. Family stress is very hard on me." I nodded because I didn't know what else to do. I stayed another half hour, then left. On the drive home, my hands were shaking, and I couldn't tell if it was leftover fear or something else entirely. That night, I transferred $1,800 back onto the shared card. I told myself maybe I'd gone too far. Maybe I'd misread things. Maybe the hospital scare meant I needed to calm down and stop pushing so hard. Guilt has a way of sounding reasonable when you're tired. For a few days after that, everything felt normal. My mom sent heart emojis. "Love you always." She sent a picture of her doing yoga in the living room with Sir Paws stretched out on a mat next to her. Captioned it, "Healing Together." Brittany forwarded me a flyer for a wellness retreat, saying her company might sponsor it. My dad sent me an article about financial discipline with no context. I didn't fully trust it, but after the hospital scare, I told myself to be civil. So when my dad asked if I could come by Saturday to replace a faulty smoke detector upstairs, I said yes. It was the kind of favor I'd always done without thinking. When I arrived, everything felt weirdly cheerful. My mom had laid out a tray of cheeses like it was a reunion. Brittany was already in the kitchen, wearing oversized sunglasses indoors, scrolling on her phone. She hugged me like nothing had happened. I grabbed the screwdriver and headed upstairs. The hallway was quiet. I climbed onto the little fold-up stool, unscrewed the detector, and started replacing the battery. That's when I heard my name. The vent by the laundry room carries sound from the kitchen. I'd forgotten that. "Melody's just exhausting," my mom said. "I can't keep walking on eggshells because she's sensitive now." Brittany responded immediately. "Right? She's always been like this, moody, dramatic, and now she thinks she's some kind of rebel because she froze the card. Grow up." Then my mom again, lower but clear. "She's bitter. She sees how successful you are, and it eats at her." They laughed. I heard glasses clink. I stayed frozen on the stool. Then my dad spoke, quieter than the others. "She's not going anywhere. She always comes back." That one landed differently. They weren't just mocking me. They were confident. Confident that no matter what they said, no matter how they treated me, I'd keep showing up, keep paying, keep fixing things. They thought my silence was surrender. I finished replacing the battery, climbed down, and washed my hands in the bathroom like nothing had happened. I walked straight past the kitchen. My mom asked if I wanted to stay for dinner. I said no. My dad started to say something, then stopped when I didn't slow down. I left without slamming the door. Quiet exits hit harder. For 3 days after that, I didn't respond to a single message. I ignored every notification from the group chat, every just checking in text, every passive-aggressive article my dad sent like it was advice instead of a warning. I went to work. I cooked dinner. I slept in my own bed. I let the noise pile up outside my life without opening the door. On Tuesday night, I logged into my banking app one last time. I didn't rush. I didn't skim. I went line by line, scrolling back as far as the app would let me. 2 years of transactions. Some big. Some so small they barely registered at the time. A grocery run here. A vet bill there. An Uber my mom forgot to switch off. A birthday cake I picked up because no one else had time. Brittany's rent, just for 1 month when she was between jobs. A dishwasher repair. Pest control. A dentist copay. Everything that had ever landed on my card because it was easier to let me handle it than to deal with it themselves. I grabbed a legal pad and started writing. I remembered some numbers clearly. The $1,100 toward their dishwasher down payment. because the warranty had expired unexpectedly. The 400 Brittany needed for a client dinner emergency that turned out to be bottomless mimosas with 3 women from her gym. But most of it came in stupid, forgettable bites. $50, $75, $120. All of it added up quietly while I told myself this was just what families do. Final total, $9,082. I stared at the number for a long time, then underlined it. I didn't message anyone. I didn't post anything. I just waited. Thursday came faster than I expected. I'd just gotten home from work, takeout bag in one hand, keys in the other, when I saw the silver Subaru again, parked half crooked, like someone didn't care if it got towed. They were standing by my door, all 3 of them this time. My mom stood front and center, arms crossed, like she was in charge of something. Brittany had her phone out like she was ready to document the moment. My dad stood slightly behind them, hands in his pockets, already uncomfortable. I unlocked the door without saying anything and stepped inside. They followed. My mom started immediately. She said they were concerned about how withdrawn I'd become. Brittany chimed in that I was hurting the family dynamic on purpose, that I was being cruel. Then my mom said it outright. "You've made your point," she said. "Now enough. Put the card back on. Help us get back on track." I let her finish. Then I walked to the kitchen counter, picked up the legal pad, and handed it to my dad. "This," I said, "is what it cost me to be your family." He looked at it, read the number. His shoulders slumped slightly before he passed it to my mom. She scoffed. "So now we're keeping score." "No," I said, "now we're closing tabs." Brittany rolled her eyes. "You're acting like we're some charity case." I looked straight at her. "You are. You just didn't notice because someone else was paying the bill." The room went quiet in that sharp, offended way people get when the truth lands somewhere they didn't expect. I told them I was done. No more card, no more favors, no more last-minute help, no more pretending I didn't hear the comments about my job, my clothes, my apartment, no more showing up to fix things or cover bills or absorb the fallout of their choices. I said I wasn't going to play the clown in Brittany's Golden Child parade anymore. Brittany opened her mouth to argue, but my mom cut her off. "We're your family, Melody." "You had a seat for the dog," I said. "You didn't have one for me." They didn't have a response for that. They left without another word. Just walked down the hallway like strangers. After the door clicked shut, I waited for something dramatic to happen inside me. Relief, regret, guilt, something. But what I felt was solid and steady, like I'd finally climbed out of a pit I didn't even realize I'd been standing in. Later that night, the text started again. From my mom. "I don't know what happened to you." From Brittany. "You're mentally unstable. You need help." Then the group chat lit up with Bible verses and paragraphs about family unity and choosing ego over love. I ignored it all. I ignored them for 4 more days. No replies, no explanations, no defending myself against the narrative they were clearly workshopping together. I let the messages stack up like unopened mail, knowing that every word they sent without hearing back only proved the point I'd finally stopped arguing against. Then Sunday afternoon came, quiet and gray, and I was unloading groceries when I saw it again. Their car. Not parked in the driveway this time, but right outside my building. I froze with one bag in my hand, keys dangling uselessly from my fingers. I hadn't even closed the door behind me before I heard it. Voices. Low, urgent, familiar. They were inside. They had let themselves in. I stood in the hallway for a second, listening. The way you do when you already know the truth, but your body still wants confirmation. My mom's voice came first, sharp and impatient. She acts like she's so above us now. Brittany followed immediately, her tone bored and biting. She's always been like this, quiet, bitter, just waiting to snap. Then my dad, quieter than the others, but somehow worse. We should have never let her handle the money. She's too emotional for that kind of responsibility. That was it. Not anger, not sadness, just certainty. I walked straight into the living room. They all turned toward me at once, like kids caught sneaking cookies. No one spoke. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I walked to the key hook by the door, took down the spare key they'd been using for years, and dropped it into the trash can. My mom opened her mouth. I picked up my duffel bag from the closet, the one I'd kept half-packed for months without admitting to myself why, and walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't look back. I stayed with a friend for a few days, changed the locks that Friday, and blocked the group chat. That was 6 months ago. In that time, not a single cent has gone to them. Not a birthday card, not a holiday gift, not a just checking in text. I unfollowed them all on social media, blocked Brittany after she posted something about toxic energy and letting go of jealous people. The silence now isn't punishment, it's space, earned space. 3 months into that silence, on a quiet Sunday in March, there was a knock at my door. I checked the peephole out of habit. It was my mom and dad, standing side by side. No Brittany this time. They looked older, smaller, tired in a way I hadn't seen before. I opened the door, but didn't invite them in. I just waited. My mom spoke first, and her voice was different. No performance, no script. We came to apologize. They didn't step forward. They didn't demand. They stood there like they finally understood where they were. I stepped aside and let them in anyway. They didn't sit. My dad spoke next. "We've been thinking about everything you said, really thinking." He looked at my mom, who nodded slowly. "We didn't listen. We didn't take you seriously until you left. And then we realized we made it normal. Normal to use you. Normal to expect you to carry everything." There were no tears, no dramatic apologies, just truth. Then my mom said the one thing I hadn't expected. "We miss you, not what you did for us, just you." That hit harder than all the guilt trips combined. I nodded once. "I'm not angry anymore," I said, "but I'm not going back to how things were." They both nodded like that was more than they'd hoped for. We talked for 20 minutes, about work, about nothing important. They asked if we could have dinner sometime. I said maybe. We agreed to start slow, no pressure. Not once did they bring up the card, or the money, or the things I'd stopped doing. And if they ever do, I already know the answer. No, because forgiveness doesn't mean funding the circus again. I closed the door after they left and stood in my apartment for a moment, listening to the quiet. Not the heavy, waiting kind, the good kind, the kind that comes when you finally stop paying for love with your own life. It cost me $9,000, years of guilt, and one very fake emergency. But I got out, and that was worth every penny.